Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Sword Art Online 2 episode review. This one's going to be for episode 23, Beginning of a Dream, second last episode of SAO II. And yeah, this is another really good episode. It definitely relates heavily to the last episode. Like, in many ways, the Mother Rosario arc is kind of split into two parts. You have the first half, which is accomplishing the quest of, defeating Floor 27 and doing what the Sleeping Knights want. Then you get this second half, which is, I suppose, getting to know Yuki better slash resolving Asuna's issues with her mother. And this episode ends up accomplishing. I said that word horribly, but anyway, you get what I'm trying to say. A lot in just what is effectively two just very extended scenes. It's Asuna carrying kind of Yuki around. They set up the whole system that kind of Kirito creates. He's primarily creating it for Yui, but Yuki uses it here to kind of experience a day in school with Asuna. And you get that, and then after school, Yuki wants to visit the house that she grew up in. And then that transitions into the second half of the episode, which is Asuna finally kind of coming out and saying what she wanted to say to her mother the whole time. So, like a lot of the episodes this season, not a massive amount of scenes, but they accomplish a lot and kind of link together really nicely to fit into the character arcs and themes of the entire arc overall. And it's a kind of slow first half of the episode because they spend a lot of time on not that much with Asuna and Yuki, but it's important because you get all these nice subtle moments of just a little bit of Kirito at the start setting up the camera and stuff like that. Asuna introducing her to the teacher. And then the moment of just like the teacher starts class and then asks Yuki to read. Rather than everyone else. And everyone else has an interest in Yuki just because, let's not forget, they're all basically former SAO players. They all have an interest in gaming to some degree. And so this idea of this person being in their class but being in hospital is like a really interesting technology that they would all, of course, have an interest in, and just seeing her participate in class, and it is literally just her reading out a section of a book, but it's this really emotional moment because it kind of is showing technology allowing her to have this experience that she's wanted for so long but hasn't really been able to do anything, and again just showing what the virtual world can do. And again, kind of in terms of real life applications, that sort of thing definitely could be possible in the future. But yeah, and then the last kind of thing Yuki wants is kind of for Asuna to bring her to see her old house. And you get more of the backstory here that she didn't spend that much time there, but she always remember it. And she talks a little bit about her mother as well, which it kind of referencing the fact that Yuki didn't always have the greatest relationship with her mother because the mother was obviously suffering from the sickness as well, and the way she tried to handle it was kind of very kind of religious and stuff like that, very much focusing on the kind of getting through the hard times rather than kind of accepting it and kind of being truly kind of being their mother and kind of acting the way they would want a mother to act and stuff like that. And it's interesting that they don't create the exact same problems, but they kind of deal with it a similar way, that the mother didn't quite understand why kind of dealing with them in that way was a problem for Yuki and her sister. But but she always remembered the good times in the house and stuff like that. And then it transitions into Asuna and Yuki kind of funny talking about the idea that Yuki has given Asuna strength, but it's kind of almost the reverse as well. And Asuna wants to use what she's learned from Yuki to and fight to get your point across. And it's a really nice moment for Yuki when she just reveals Asuna says to her, I'm kind of inspired by you because you just speak your mind, say whatever you want. You don't hesitate or hold back. And she kind of reveals that not having a lot of time left, I tend to not kind of beat around the bush that much. I just say what I want to, and if anyone has a problem with it, that's their problem. I want to spend as much of my time as I can be smiling, even if that is kind of a fake smile. And that was a really interesting perspective on it. That just like her character is that she just wants to be happy the whole time and optimistic, even if maybe she's not, but she wants to make that come across. So she isn't that kind of almost stereotypical kind of ill person like kind of her mother was. That's kind of what she's setting up here. That's the sort of person she doesn't want to be. The person who's like, I'm sick, I've got to do all this stuff and stuff like that. So that was interesting. And then Yuki just gives her some last moments of confidence, like, you can do this. Tell your mother what you want. And there was a nice little kind of funny scene of just the two of them kind of addressing the kind of romance thing about like um they kind of bring up the idea of like marriage for Yuki, next year maybe and stuff like that. And she mentions one of the other sleeping nights, and Yuki's like, no. And then Yuki's just like, well, you already have someone lined up, don't you? And Austin's just like, gets a little bit embarrassed, and it's just like, yeah, kind of. So it's just a little bit of that reference, but like Asuna kind of already knows that Kirito is going to be the person that she marries, and it was just nice to basically have them say as much here, real life marriage and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, the second half of the episode is just again, obviously you get some real world, some in game, but she finally goes to talk to her mother, and again you can see the tenseness. She hesitates before knocking at the door, and walks in, and immediately her mother's like, business. Have you got the did you fill out those forms about the transfer? Have you done all this? You're late again. And Asuna finally kind of says, there's a lot I want to say to you, but I can only say it to you in game, in the virtual world, in my world, so you can somewhat understand. And it it takes basically Asuna being kind of passionate about this, kind of showing her emotion, and finally kind of, I suppose, fighting to get her point across for her mother to kind of finally see, like, she she really means this. Like, you can see in her mother's face that this is different, that she's not just kind of holding back here and just kind of walking away. She really wants to say something to me, so I'll give her these 5 minutes. But she has to say, but I'm not going to change my mind regardless of what you show me. And then you get the moment of the two of them in game, and just you get to see a complete novice kind of their reaction to starting up the game. That, to some extent, all the other characters had some experience with games, but this is someone who had no interest in virtual world in games, and is suddenly reacting to kind of being in game. And you get the little joke, to break the ice, that immediately they're much more comfortable talking to each other in the virtual world because they have that kind of icebreaker of like, I feel a lot lighter here. My face looks weird, but your face looks exactly the same somehow, Asuna. And that immediately does kind of put them a little bit at ease, but there's still tenseness there. And ultimately it comes down to Asuna kind of being inspired by what Yuki just did in going back to see her old house, and she kind of shows her mother just where her house is in game, which is a really cool kind of explanation for why the cabin in the kind of woods is so important to Asuna. In that, growing up, her time that she spent with her grandparents was, you can tell, was really important to her. That she had a special connection with them because they weren't the rich people that her parents are. That they lived a different type of life that suited Asuna a lot more, and she was kind of more grounded because of that, and wasn't very much like her mother, who always strived to kind of be above the kind of level that her family was at. And this references one of the earlier episodes when Asuna leaves but says to her mother that, are you kind of like ashamed from the fact that you came from a kind of poorer family, a poorer background, and that, our grandparents weren't rich. And you get this kind of flashback to the fact that her grandparents lived in this nice little kind of cabin in the woods that they went to from time to time, but there were times when Asuna went there alone when the rest of them went somewhere else, showing the kind of difference between her and the rest of her family. And just referencing this idea that her mother very much put everything into her work and becoming a success, that she completely kind of left behind kind of where she came from. And Asuna kind of that's kind of all she wants. That she's the few times where we've seen her completely at ease were in like the original Aincrad arc, those days in the cabin with Kirito, and how happy she is in ALO having the cabin with Kirito again. It's just a really nice way to connect all of that together. And it ultimately comes down to just Asuna kind of talking about the fact that her Asuna's mother's parents, her grandparents, um, were always so proud of Asuna's mother for making a name for herself and moving kind of beyond the level that their family was at. They never kind of saw it as her leaving, as I suppose they're kind of trying to say that her mother is, that the mother had always kind of thought that she kind of in a way betrayed her kind of parents by just leaving them like that and becoming a success and not really returning. And just for Asuna to kind of tell her mother that, no, they always kind of just thought so highly of you, and to the point where they cared so much about their kind of cabin that they wanted to keep it safe. So where if the mother ever kind of got tired of working so hard, there'd be a place for her to return to. This idea that they always cared about her, and her moving away from them was never really an issue. And it's in the first moment we start to see some emotion from Asuna's mother, and the two of them start to get emotional, and you get this idea that you can't really hold your emotions back in the game, and it allows them to be a little bit more, in a way, real around each other despite them being in the virtual world. It's a really kind of clever play on the whole two world dynamic that they have in this show, that it takes them being in the world for this mother and daughter to really have a real conversation with each other. And I suppose the most important thing in terms of Asuna character wise is that she has learned from her grandparents, from what she's experienced, that it's more important than your own happiness is the people around you and being able to make them happy. And what she wants from her life is to kind of be able to support the people around her so they will always be happy and be that supporting character. It completely explains the role that she takes in basically all of the fights that she's been involved in, basically since the ALO arc, and just what she wants to be. That she has transitioned from that player that she was in SAO, in Aincrad, where she was one of the frontline players. Now she starts off usually as more of a supporting character, always helping her friends to fight as hard as they can. And if they need her, she can jump in and be the berserk healer and be that person if they need to be. But at a base level, she wants to be that supporting character. And I kind of like that as a kind of character arc for her, because it very much makes her and Kirito have these different roles within the group, and that Kirito is the leader. He's kind of like the center of the group, in terms of frontline player. He's got all the amazing skills. But she is just that supporting character who's always there to help and can be on his level when she needs to be. And that's a really kind of nice differentiation to have, in that you can just see how it's evolved from Aincrad, in that it was basically Kirito's the best player in the game, Asuna's just a little bit below him, but they're roughly similar styles of players. Now there's a clear distinction between the two, and that's really interesting how it links into the fact that in terms of her future, her career path and stuff like that, she wants to have this sort of a life or career path where she can help people, and being able to help Yuki in the way that she has kind of, you can see that she enjoys doing that. And you can almost, I don't really know if in any of the other material, story material, they kind of reveal what exactly it is that she wants to do, but I can definitely see it being something along the lines of this, that she can maybe, like, maybe in relation to what Kirito is doing, really be that kind of other side of things. Like Kirito can be the technical side of like whatever he's trying to do with the mechatronics, and then she can be the kind of support kind of people person within that kind of group. So there's a lot of potential. And then the next morning, with the final scene of the episode, you see that they do a nice thing in terms of the visuals here. Like before this, every scene between Asuna and her mother, apart from the virtual world scene, had always been dark. At night, very little lights on, very tense. But this scene in the next morning, the windows are open, natural light, middle of the day. Asuna just kind of walks in, and you can tell the mother's not the most kind of, is usually a very stern person, so it's still a little bit like formal, but there's a much more open dialogue between the two, and it's just like she just kind of confirms like you really want to be this kind of supporting role, and Asuna confirms yes, and she's like if you want if to be able to kind of bear that burden, you have to be kind of better than you are now. So I expect better grades and stuff like that. Go to university and stuff like that. So it's just kind of like, okay, I understand your path, but you still have to do rough some of the stuff that I'm doing. But yes, you can stay in your old school. So, it all kind of works out. The kind of mother daughter relationship is fixed. There's an understanding there. The mother understands how real the virtual world can be, given that that this key conversation between her and her daughter that happened that really helped to kind of bridge this gap between them happened in there. So there's an understanding, and it just works really well within the arc. And that's basically the episode. Again, there's a lot to discuss because they are two very kind of long extended scenes that are very important, but they link together perfectly within this arc. But yes, only one episode to go, and I will probably put that review out on Saturday, probably, and then like Monday, Tuesday next week, I'll do the Mother Rosario kind of arc review. But yeah, tomorrow's video will probably be the Star Wars Rebels episode review. But other than that, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.